Mom always said there'd be days like these. A few weeks ago, I got a call to wash a one-story ranch, mostly vinyl home. You've seen it, small, easy wash. Sweetest lady you've ever met in your life. About 85 years old, maybe a tad older, caring for her aged husband who has severe Alzheimer's and dementia. I washed the house. It wasn't dirty. It just wasn't. But I washed, charged her a fair rate, and she came out and took a look at the home. She was very well pleased. Sweetest lady you ever want to deal with. Later that night, probably 8 o'clock at night, she calls me frantic. Mike, the house looks worse than it did before. I thought, how could that possibly be? So I told her I'd come back the next day. So I did. The next day, that afternoon, Jeepers creepers, folks, pay attention. I went back and she said, Mike, she said, it looks so much better than it did before. She said, I swear last night it looked terrible. I said, I'm wondering if it was just still drying and maybe it looked blotchy, because that was the term that she told me over the phone. It looked blotchy. I said, well, I'll give it a good rinse. I'm already here. And she said, that's fine. So I gave it a good rinse. She said, thank you for coming back. If you don't hear from me, you'll know all is well. About 3 days later, she calls me back. Really? Mike, something has to be done. This house looks terrible. So I go back. When I got there, she said, by the way, you killed my flowers. But I looked at the flowers, and the flowers were just fine. So she takes me around the house, and she says, I don't know, it just looks terrible. And I can't find it. Between you and me, right? Just the two of us. There was nothing wrong with the house. It looked perfectly fine. It was clean. Old vinyl. It wasn't blotchy. Maybe a little runoff from some of the seams, but you really have to look for that. I said, well, I'll wash it I'll rinse it one more time. So I did. She calls back a couple of days later, leaves a message. Mike, I'm just not happy. We're going to have to do something. So I go back today. Again, I see nothing. And I give it all another wash. Almost the whole house. She complains about the garage door. I said, ma'am, I think your garage door needs to be painted. She says, no, it does not need to be painted. It is dirty. Now, I need to go on record here once again and say she was never mean. She was never belligerent. She was never hateful. She wasn't argumentative. She wasn't trying to throw me under the bus. She wasn't trying to get her money back. But there just wasn't anything wrong with the house. So I told her I did my best, and I left. I'm wondering if I'm going to get a phone call. Now, the point of the video is this. In 8 years, I haven't had anything to this extent, but there are times when people just don't get it. And if you're a new washer and you think that you're going to wash a house, go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one. And you're just going to get money hand over fist. You're not going to have any recalls and everything. Sometimes you just deal with people who maybe, we don't deal with people. We deal with personalities. And some people are looking for heaven on earth. And this poor lady is suffering greatly with her husband. She's wearing a lot of hats. In fact, there were people going in and out caring for her husband who cannot care for himself, and she's at a point where she can't care for him. All she has is her house. She just wants to take care of her home. And she might be seeing things that aren't there. But I still have to deal with that, right? I can't just throw her under. And you still have to deal with that. And tomorrow there may be another one. What do you do with that? I'm not saying you can't make good money. You can make great money. But then there are going to be days where you're not going to make any money whatsoever because you're dealing with situations that are even beyond your control. And by the way, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to close this out. Every one of you has an answer for my situation. And none of you are wrong because there is no wrong answer. What you would have done probably would have been the right thing to do in your situation. What someone else would have done would have been the right thing to do in their situation. And what I did, I feel like was the right thing to do in my situation. Know this, every situation is different. And just because you think that your way would have been better doesn't necessarily mean that it was. I'm the representative on site. I got to deal with the issue, and it could have been so much worse. What I say, 4 times washing this house and rinsing it, giving it the fresh rinse. All right, hey, let's go wash another one. Mike, fresh rinse, and I'm out.